Hello. Hello. Is there anybody out there? Can somebody confirm that the camera and the mic are operational? That would be great. Please let me know if everything is working accordingly. Is there anybody out there? Just going to wait for a minute until somebody chimes in, and then I'm going to start babbling. Hello, everybody. Let's see if there is any activity in the chat going on. The chat doesn't seem to be working over here. That's odd. I'm going to see if I can rectify that by logging into another chat. Just a moment, please. Maybe it will work on my mobile phone. Ah, here we go. Hey, guys. Yeah, for some reason, the chat isn't active on my PC screen over here, but I have your chats over here, so that's nice. Hi, guys. I hear you all good in the hood. The man, I can hear you nice and clear. Hey, from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, Brian. Hi, guys. Greetings from Ukraine. Nice. Yeah, that's great, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be fun. I'm tuning in about 10 minutes earlier than I was planning to start, because I'm going to do these live streams in a little bit of a different way from now on. I'm going to do them more frequently, so I'm going to try to do these every Friday. Of course, there will be some exceptions, but I'm going to do my best to be here every Friday. I'm also going to try to do them a little bit more short than the other ones that I did before, because those were about 2 hours long, and that was really fun and awesome. But I don't want to run out of things to discuss, if that makes sense. So they'll probably be around 30 or 45 minutes or so, just to see how that will go. So yeah, I hope you guys are all doing great. With this weird time we're in. I just got my vaccination shot like 1 hour ago. I feel fine, luckily. No weirdness going on here. Yeah, so I want to make this channel grow. And I'm really motivated, and I have a lot of plans up here, and I have a lot of plans written down as well. So of course I'm going to continue what I've been doing since the start, which is gear demos, and guitar related videos and stuff like that. That's the main thing of this channel, of course. But I'm also going to do videos that are more focused on music. So for example, I'm going to do album reviews, namely new albums that I'm enjoying, or old albums that are perhaps underrated. So for example, I recorded this album review that I'm going to release next week or the week after, which is an underrated gem review. And then I'm going to talk about an album that's a little bit older, and and just talk about why I really like that album and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really hope that you guys will check those videos out and just have fun and discuss music with me and stuff like that. And I'm also going to do fun stuff like my top 5 favorite guitar tones, and my top 5 amplifiers, because those are all things that you ask me quite frequently. So it should be fun to make those sorts of videos, and I'm going to try to make them not too long, so a little bit compact, and just have some fun there. So I hope you guys will enjoy that, and I hope you guys will stick around for that as well. It's exciting, but it's gonna be a lot of work, because as of right now, I'm releasing about 1 video a week, but I'm gonna do like 2 or maybe even 3 a week, and a live stream on every Friday. So yeah, I hope you guys stick around, and thanks so much for your support so far. Every like, every comment, and every subscribe really means the world to me, and I can't stress that enough. So thank you so much for your support so far, and yeah, let's have some fun on Sonic Drive Studio. So before we go into the questions, I already see a couple of questions coming in. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this wonderful little amplifier. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. You all know this one, right? This is the Peavey Invective MH, the baby version of. Let me put this down very carefully. The baby version of this big boy over here. And I got these amps a little while ago. And I already did a full demo / review video on them both. So a combination video. And then this week I posted a comparison video of the Invective MH versus the 6505 MH. So that's a really fresh topic. So if you guys have any questions about that video or about the Invectives in general, do let me know, because that's, you know, a relevant topic right now. But yeah, this little amplifier is probably one of my all-time favorite metal Lunchbox amplifiers, because it sounds great. Of course, it looks cool. It looks modern. I like the style, you know, with the white control surface and then the black panel and stuff. It looks really cool and stealthy and modern. But yeah, it sounds really nice, and it's quite flexible. I mean, the big boy is really flexible. It's one of my favorite amps because of that, because it can do so much. I mean, the cleans are stellar. Really clean, lots of headroom. And then on top of that, you can add the boost, the built-in boost, and then get some crunch tones out of it. And then if you want to get to even higher gain territory, you can go to the crunch channel or the lead channel. And then you can even, you know, engage the built-in boost to make everything sound more tight and more aggressive, and, you know, to shape the overall tone. So this amp right here is really amazing. I really love this amplifier. And if you haven't seen my review and demo, do check it out, because it's quite cool. But this little guy, the Invective MH that I just showed you guys, is also really nice. Of course, it's more stripped down. It's only a 20-watt amplifier. But the clean channel is very cool. You know, just a gain control, a low and a high control, but that's more than enough for some great tones. In fact, a couple of my amplifiers, such as the TH30 and my Rocker Verb and some other amps, they only have a gain, a treble, and a bass control as well, and that's more than enough to get some really great clean tones, actually. So yeah, the clean tones are nice. I think, but I'm not entirely sure, that the gain control is actually a master volume control. So when you crank it, you can get some nice organic overdrive. But I think it's the power tubes that start to saturate, but I'm not entirely sure about that, because I'm not super technical. By the way, before I go on, feel free to drop some questions, and likes and stuff are always super welcome. So yeah, drop some likes, drop some comments. I really appreciate you guys. So I'm just going to carry on with this little amplifier for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to talk directly to you and answer your questions. But yeah, so this is the clean channel. Again, a low and a high control, very simple. And then we have the lead channel, which on its own sounds pretty similar to a 6505 or a 5150, which we have over here. But in comparison to the small 6505 MH, the resonance control seems to be more powerful, so it has more balls, more weight, you know. But in general, it sounds more refined. Like the 6505 MH is a bit more raw sounding and really snarly. Not that this one can't sound raw and snarly, but just by default. But this one is quite bright by default. So that's why I had the treble or the high control quite low in the comparison video. Because yeah, by default, the amp is quite bright in comparison to the 6505 MH. That's good to know, because when you plug this in for the first time and you put your controls in the middle, you'll probably be like, whoa, this is a bright amplifier. Whoa. You know, just dial down the highs, the treble control, and you'll be fine. The funny thing is that the big Invective is not super bright by default if you crank the channel volume controls. Let's see. The post gain controls. Yeah, if you crank the post gain controls on the big one, the sound of the amplifier is much less bright by default. But if you want to crank the level on this amplifier, it's basically the master volume already. So you'll be cranking the amp like crazy, because with the big one, you've also got a master volume control to tame that back, if that makes sense. Anyway, so that's probably why this one is brighter. I imagine that the preamp is just the same, but when you crank the post gain control, that's when it gets warmer, and then that's when it sounds more round and less bright. So taming the high over here really helps. And then of course we've got the tight switch, which I also demonstrate in the comparison video. That makes the channel sound a little bit less huge. It gets a little bit more martially with that switch, so it's kind of cool. A little bit more like the crunch channel on this one, although I'm not superly convinced by that, because to me it sounds a bit different. And then of course we've got the boost and the gate. Well, the boost is cool because it sounds like a tube screamer in front of the amplifier, making it more tight and more mid-focused. In the comparison, I did not change the EQ controls of the amplifier at all when I engaged the boost, but if you use the boost, you'll likely have to, raise the bass a little bit and maybe dial back the mids a little bit. So that's also something to think about. And the gate, of course, is just a very nice way to get a more tight sound in between the notes. So overall, it's a wonderful, wonderful amplifier that I really recommend. And a lot of people have been asking me like, yeah, which one would you get? The Invective MH or the Angle Fireball 25 or blah, blah, blah. Well, let's talk about that sort of stuff. So I'm going to check out your questions and let's have some fun. All right. Dickie Rad, what's your choice between a Mesa Badlander 50 and EVH Stealth 50? I'm torn. That's a great question. I'm not the best person to answer that question because I've never tried a Badlander and I've never tried the EVH Stealth. I have an EVH 50 watt EL34 over there. I have tried that one. I've heard that the Stealth is great, but very gainy. And the thing is with the EVH amps, just going to take one sip of my tea. Well, the thing with the EVH amps is they're very tight by default. And when you have an amp that's very tight from the get-go, it's hard to dial that out, if I'm making sense. So sometimes I want my amps to sound, fatter and bigger in the low mids. So when you hit a low note or a palm mute, that it really sounds fat and thick, if that makes sense. And when something is very tight, you don't have that thickness. It's very direct and a bit, thinner, but not in a bad way. But the EVH amps are very tight, great for very fast playing and stuff like that. But I did hear that the Badlander sort of sounds like a boosted rectifier. So yeah, I guess that also means that it comes with a very tight sound by default. So I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. You know what? I'm just going to say this. I would recommend this Peavey Invective because not only can it sound very tight with the built-in boosts, not only does it have a noise gate, not only can you program the whole thing via MIDI or via the foot switch with the presets and 2 effects loops and 2 9-volt outputs and all the boosts and all that great stuff, you can make this thing sound however you want. So yeah, this is one of the best amplifiers that I own, and certainly one of the most versatile amplifiers that I own. Maybe look into that model. Khalil B, hey on, is there an important difference in mix recording with 35 watt versus 100 watts with reactive load and IRs? Great question. Thanks for the question. In my opinion, not really, but of course it depends on how the amps are constructed. Let's take another example. I have this orange TH30H over here, which is a 30 watt amplifier with 4 EL84s. And next to that, I don't know if you can see it, but there's my Dark Terror. And those have the same preamp on the lead channel, as far as I'm aware. At least they sound very similar. But this one is 15 watts and this one is 30 watts. So the 30 watt amplifier has more headroom, but they both run on EL84s. So in a sense, they sound very similar, but at the same time, the 30 watt amp has more headroom. And because of that, you can crank it up louder and it will still sound more full. With recording, it doesn't really matter that much. And that also counts for amplifiers that have different valves, as long as they are constructed in a way that they sound very similar, if I'm making sense. For example, the Friedman JJ Jr., which is a very recent addition. You can't see it, but it's down here. My Friedman JJ Jr. is a recent addition to my collection. And I haven't heard this comparison myself, but I heard from a couple of guys on YouTube and from Dave Friedman as well, that when he puts this one next to the big boy, so this one is 20 watts and the big J, double J, I said JJ in the video and people got mad because I didn't say double J. But yeah, he said when you put them together at reasonable volumes, they sound exactly the same. So those are probably constructed in a way so that they sound the same. So, you know, it has a little bit to do with construction, but of course, mostly with headroom. Now, if you take this Mark V 35 over here, that one has 4 EL84s, and the big Mark amps have 6 L6s by default, I think, if I'm correct. Those will also have more headroom, and the bigger amps usually have bigger transformers, so when you turn them up loud, they will hold together better. However, with those types of amps, usually people don't want power amp distortion anyway, or not a whole lot anyway. So I personally think that low wattage amps record just fine with a load box, because it's very easy to find that sweet spot of where the power amp starts to do its thing without completely squashing the low end. Because if you crank a low wattage amplifier up too high, you're going to squash the low end and the palm mutes and stuff. But there is an area in the taper of the master volume where you can get some compression and some saturation going without completely obliterating the low end. So I would not worry about it. For recording and with the load box, just get a low wattage amplifier. And if it really ends up sucking for you, you can always send it back, right? I hope. So thanks for the question. I hope this answer helped. Constantine M. Sounds like a pretty good amp, the Peavey MH. Yes, can it be used without a cab? Yes, it can. Both these Peavey, both the 6505 MH and the Invective MH have this MSDI output. It's a bit, I don't know if you can see this, but right there in the middle is this XLR output, and it has a speaker defeat button. And that means that you can plug it into your interface. There's even a USB out on here. So you can plug this right into your computer via USB, which is pretty cool. The only drawback, I think, of these Peavey amplifiers is that you cannot, as far as I'm aware, turn off the speaker simulation. Yeah, so if you want to go direct, you have a speaker simulation on there, so you can't really use impulse responses at all. So that's a bit of a bummer. They could have added one little switch that turns the mic and cab modeling off. However, let me just add one thing before after I take another sip of my tea. Oh yeah, green tea. So I have to add one other thing. I'm gonna ramble here, guys. I hope you guys don't mind. But amplifiers with a built-in load, like the Invective MH and like a bunch of my Angle amps and Hughes and Kettner amps and a bunch of my amplifiers these days have a built-in load. Okay. The load box basically inside those amplifiers is super handy. I mean, you can plug them in at night without any external gear and go into your interface and voila, there you go. But it will never sound as good as a proper load box, reactive load box, in my opinion. I mean, I've tried all the outputs, most of the outputs of those amplifiers, and they sounded fine. But when I put them through my Fractal, my trusty Fractal LB2 reactive load, which is one of the best purchases I ever made. Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. So keep that in mind. You might need to use some post-processing or some EQing to get it to sound a little bit more real. Maybe you scoop the mids around 400 hertz a little bit, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. That usually the more expensive reactive loads do sound a bit better than the built-in loads in the amplifiers. I'm not saying that those features aren't great. I mean, in fact, it's amazing that those amps have those options, but something to keep in mind. Of course, they can't put, $500 worth of a load inside of one of these amplifiers. That wouldn't work. So it makes a lot of sense why it sounds different, but yeah, that's something to keep in mind. All right, I'm gonna see if I can answer more questions. I watched the video and still can't decide which I like better, the Invective MH or the 6505 MH. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I did all I could with that video. It's a tough choice. Let me put it this way. More raw, 6505 MH. More refined and more tweakable, the Invective MH. More affordable, the 6505 MH. It has a reverb as well. The Invective MH does not have reverb. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll see if I can answer them. Richie, okay, I'm literally gonna buy a head tonight, but I'm paralyzed with choice. Oh man, I have the answer. Buy them all. Buy them all. Richie, let us know which amp you're gonna buy, or which amps you're deciding between, because I'd like to help you with that. Jeroen Hofmans, that's a Dutch name, and I'm gonna pronounce it in the Dutch way. So not Jeroen Hofmans, Jeroen Hofmans. Is it bad for your tube amp when it's not connected to a speaker cab and it's on standby? That's not advised. If that happens, be sure to turn it off as soon as you can, because you can seriously damage your amplifier by doing that. I'm no expert in it, so I'm not sure if you have to play through it before it breaks or if it just happens without making any noise whatsoever. But yeah, it's pretty well known that it's not advised to connect, to turn on your tube amplifier without a cabinet connected. It's not a good idea. So try to avoid that at all costs. I'm quite paranoid about those sort of things myself. When I connect my amplifiers to my cab or my load box, I'm always triple checking if everything is connected, just because I don't want to break anything, Okay, let's see. Judo Koala. What a cool name. I can't decide between 6505 and Invective MH. Well, there we go. Or wait and save more for a Fireball 25 or EVH Stealth 50. Oh my gosh. Well, they all sound great. Let's be honest here. They all sound great. The Angle Fireball 25 is great too. I can't wait to do another video with that one. Yeah. I would say watch some videos, see which one sounds the best to you, and then look at the features and the prices and see what you need. Because they all sound great. For very tight metal, well, I know a lot of folks these days like their metal very tight. In that case, go either for the MH because of the built-in boost, or the Fireball or the EVH, because those are pretty tight sounding by default. The 6505 MH sounds very gnarly and pretty tight, but you might want to use a boost in front. Not that I like to do those sort of things often, but it depends on your tuning and on stuff like that. So yeah, it's a tough question to answer. Pim van Vught, or Pam van Voogd. Hi, I'm kind of losing the joy in playing guitar, and I don't really find myself picking up the guitar anymore. I've had more periods like this, but this one seems the worst. Any advice? Dude, I think we've all been there. We've all been there. And I don't know if there's anything that you can do to force that. in those types of situations, I think the best thing is to just accept that it's happening and try to enjoy life in other ways. Watch movies or listen to music and just accept I'm not enjoying guitar right now, because you don't want to force those types of things, because playing guitar is supposed to be something out of enjoyment and inspiration. What sometimes helps for me after taking a little break is rediscovering old bands that I used to listen to when I was young. What has really helped for me recently is listening to Iron Maiden again, one of my favorite bands that I used to listen to when I was very young, still listen to this day. And that really sparked some new inspiration for me. But don't try to force it, just accept it. If you don't want to play, don't play. It's supposed to be fun. Really, don't look at playing the guitar as something that you have to do. That's not the right way to approach an instrument. Trust me, I know. Thanks for the question. I really appreciate you being so honest and asking such a question like that in the chat. I really like those type of questions because they are real and not just about gear. I love gear, but these questions are good too. So thanks and good luck with that. And don't worry about it. Just try to do whatever makes you happy in life. Okay. LR Exotic Gaming. Ooh. EVH 5150 MH or Peavey 6505 MH. Okay, for me, that one is quite easy because, as I mentioned earlier, the EVHs are very tight by default. So they have a certain sound that is basically impossible to dial out because it's very hard to dial that low end before the preamp back in, so to speak. The 6505 is a bit more fat sounding by default, so it's easier to shape that amplifier to your liking with a boost or pre-EQ. But if you're really into those tight EVH tones, if that really is what you love, then the EVH is going to give you that sound. So keep that in mind. I hope that helps. Also, what own-hammer would be the best for metal and cleans? In that case, for that question, I would definitely say start out with the Heavy Hitters Collection Volume 1. John Hall. Yo, hey all. Hey y'all. John, I like your name. You've got a good name. Simple and straightforward. Let's see. Constantine M. What will you do to emulate 5150 on Helix without using Peavey Panama model? Peavey Panama has problems. I'm thinking about the Rev Gen Purple. No, I'm not. I want that 5150 sound so much. Yeah, the 5150 on Helix isn't the best. It's cool. You can get some cool sounds out of it, but it's not super realistic for some reason. Maybe it is realistic to the model that they were emulating, but yeah, it's not super realistic. So maybe get yourself an affordable 5150 plugin like the X something. There's this plugin, I forgot the name. X5 or something. That's a plugin that basically emulates a 5150 and it does it quite well. Maybe just get that and, get it over with. Thanks for the question. Brian Lang. I'm inclined to say Brian Lange because that's the Dutch way of saying that. I really like the guitar tones you got using the Line 6 Helix for your song, The New Brutal. Whew, that's a while ago. What is your top 3 IR for that type of tone? Can you achieve that tone without other plugins? That's a difficult question because I don't really remember that one. So that's tough. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm just going to skip that question, but get back to me on that because I'm sure I'll be able to get a good answer for you, but I can't recall what I used there. And I can't recall how that sounded right now. So send me a personal message on Instagram or Facebook and I'll get you sorted, mate. Let's see. Richie. Hello, Richie. I'm looking for a Lunchbox 20-watt style head around 500 quid. So that's probably around 600 or 700 euros. I assume you're living in the UK. For playing pop punk, easy core like 4 Year Strong or Day to Remember, but there are too many options. The ones I've been looking at are Orange Rocker 15, PRS MT15, Peavey Invective MH, EVH, Laney. Ooh, that's quite the list. I was leaning towards the MT15, but I'm worried it'll be too high gain. What would you suggest for this kind of budget music? Wow. Richie, great question, and thanks for articulating it so well. Okay, so the Rocker 15 is a cool amp. It's a great little amplifier with that fat orange sound, but it's one of the least metal sounding oranges. It's not the most high gain. I mean, it has plenty of gain, but it's a very fat and warm sound. That's very suited for stuff like, medium rock, heavier rock, grunge, stoner, that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the oranges, for those types of styles, I would recommend maybe the Dual Terror, although that's not the most metal orange as well. But I really love the Dual Terror. It's an amazing amp. But maybe find a used Jim Root Terror, because those are great. However, that is the orange sound. I mean, when you go for orange, you go for orange. If you go for orange, you want that orange tone, and nothing sounds like an orange. I love it, but do be aware of that. PRS MT15 is great, but it's quite high gain. It's not the best amplifier for rock and roll crunch tones. That's its weak side, in my opinion. The cleans are great, the high gains are great, but the crunch tones in between, nah. Peavey Invective MH, kind of the same thing. Although it's a little bit more flexible than the PRS MT15, in my opinion, because it can do crunch a little bit better. It's still not the best crunch, if that's what you're looking for. EVH, LBX, I talked about this a couple minutes ago. Those are very tight and aggressive by default, and the crunch tones aren't brilliant. Laney IRT Studio is pretty good. It's pretty good, especially for recording and playing at home in lower volumes. It won't be great for playing super loud. Peavey 6505 MH, can't go wrong with that one. Yeah. Maybe go for the 6505 MH. Let me think. Or maybe check out the Hughes & Kettner Tubemeister Deluxe 40. It's a 40-watt amplifier. It's compact. It has 3 channels, a clean channel that you can crank to get some overdrive, a crunch channel that sounds very British, punchy and bright, and the lead channel sounds very Mesa Boogie rectifier-ish. So that's a really versatile amp, actually, but it's not. It's a bit more. It's a bit more expensive than 500 quid. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. The IRT is very versatile, but that's one of those amplifiers that is great for metal and stuff, but it's not the most tight and aggressive amplifier. It may need a boost, but it's very flexible and very versatile amp nonetheless. So all those are things to consider. I can't decide for you which amplifier is the best for you. So take all those things into consideration. Watch my comparisons, and especially the 41 amp, the one riff 41 amp comparison, for just a basic idea of how all those amps differ in tone. And if you really can't find an option, shoot me a message or a comment or something, and I'll try to help you out, okay? By the way, for everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much for hanging out. I was talking about how I'm going to grow the channel a lot the coming weeks and months. I'm going to post more content every week, multiple videos every week, not only gear-based videos, but also videos that are about music and albums. And yeah, I know that you guys are all music lovers. Don't lie to me. So please join me with that. And I'm really going to need all of your support to make the channel grow and grow. So I would really appreciate it if you guys drop some likes and comments and subs, because that really means a lot to me. It means the world to me. So thanks in advance, and thanks for all the support so far. I'm going to continue with some questions, and keep in mind that I don't want to make these live streams too long. So I'm going to try to go over the questions in a speedy way. Okay, John Hall. Been really enjoying my Angle Fireball 25. Such a great amp. Thanks for your vids on it, John. Thank you. I was trying to decide between the Invective MH and the Fireball. Ended up going with the Fireball. Would still like an Invective in the future. Yeah, that won't be a bad choice. They're both great amps. Let's see. Hey man, Barry Prosser. What's your favorite Lunchbox amp? What would you say is the best bedroom amp? Yeah, I get that question a lot. And the thing is, I don't have a favorite because I have so many that I don't have to choose. I'm never in the position where I have to choose. It depends so much on your style. I mean, I just talked about this as well with one of the previous questions. I mean, if you're into a vintage rock style, maybe get the Rocker 15. If you're into very modern metal, get the Engel Iron Ball or the Invective MH. If you're into stonery stuff, maybe get the Dual Terror or the OR15. If you're looking for something that does it all, check out the Tubemeister Deluxe 40. So yeah, it's kind of hard to answer. It's a bit of a broad question, but I'm going to do a dedicated video on that sometime soon, and I'll probably do a video where I'll talk about my 5 favorite Lunchbox amplifiers and why and stuff like that. I'll probably feature one that is great for metal and another one that is great for rock and stuff. So I'm going to keep these questions in mind and make dedicated videos. So stay tuned and thanks for the question. All right. Suomi Perkele. I always pronounce your name like that. Suomi Perkele, but maybe it's Suomi Perkele. I'm not sure. Do correct me because I want to pronounce your name correctly. I think it sounds weird because it's a resistive load and not a reactive load, so they don't react like a real speaker. He's talking about the built-in loads in amplifiers versus a good reactive load. Yes, I think that's the correct terminology. Jack Rex, have you considered comparing all 3 5153 versions? Jack, that would be amazing, but I only have the EL 3450 water and the Lunchbox LBX1. I don't have any other EVHs, and I'm not planning to get one, and I don't think EVH will send me one. I did contact Fender a little while ago about the LBX Stealth, if they maybe want me to feature the amp on the channel, but they haven't even responded to my email. That's fine, of course, they don't have to, but if you want me to feature more EVH on the channel, it really can help if you guys shoot a message to Fender and let them know that you want me to feature some of their amps on the channel. So yeah, I'm not planning on featuring both, all 3, the Stealth, the 6L6, and EL34 on the channel because I only have the EL34 and the LBX. It would be nice though. Let's see. I can't answer all of your questions, guys, but I'm going to do my best to answer as many as I can. Hi, John. Mike Jaws. Hi, John. How do you rate the Marshall SCMH? SCMH, the SC20, I assume. It seems to be much weaker than other modern high gain amps, but still capable. Worth it to you? I have a single rectifier and I don't like it. Dude, send me the rectifier and I'll send you my SC. Well, the Marshall SC20 is a JCM 800, and those are not high gain amps at all, contrary to what some people think. They're crunch amps, and if you want them to get into high gain territory, you're going to have to boost them. And the Mesa rectifier is a very modern scooped amplifier. So it's a very different sound. If you're into high gain, but you want a more classic British sound, look into the Friedman JJ Jr. because that is an amazing amp that I really love, and I'm gonna need to do a lot more videos with that one. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Thanks for the questions, by the way, guys. I really appreciate it. Surfan says, love the tones you get. When purchasing orange cab IRs from Ownhammer, did you go with a heavy hairs pack or the specific orange pack?